Hey everybody, Blake T. Wild here, and welcome back to The Ultimate Era! And welcome back to the Ultimate Galactus Trilogy. This is part 2, so if you haven't seen the first video, check it out on my channel from last week. And stay tuned for the upcoming grand climax, Ultimate Extinction. Released in 2005, written by Warren Ellis with art by the inimitable Steve McNiven. This is Ultimate Secret. The book begins at a SHIELD Aerospace Development Facility in New Mexico. A rocket is prepared on one of those giant tread platform things, and SHIELD Captain Carol Danvers, there is just something I got about a stern woman with a pixie cut wearing a uniform. Gives a symposium regarding the base and the projects on site, as well as the new ACES-01 shuttle, and notes that today's meeting will conclude with its launch. Then she's notified that Dr. Phillip Lawson is heading into the compound. Commander North of the base heads into the room and instructs everyone to take a seat as Dr. Lawson arrives late to the meeting. Lawson shakes hands with Dr. Franklin Storm, and Commander North offers him the room. Lawson then begins to inform everyone that ACES is the first line of SHIELD's propulsion project. And unlike shuttles of the past, the ACES is powered by nuclear energy capable of opening a zero-point energy zone, which is a limitless power supply with artificial gravity as a nice side effect, which generates thrust from essentially nothing. Lawson continues that the calculations they've made could lead to the ACES reaching a speed of 20% the speed of light, and it can also be mass-produced. Then Carol is alerted that there's been a security breach at the perimeter of the compound, and the SHIELD forces are being shelled by an unknown force. And just across the compound, an invisible entity marches through the desert towards the ship. Carol orders the base under condition black and instructs the scientists to remain calm as they watch the attack in the distance from the main building. Dr. Lawson watches with his special eyes and sees what the humans can't. This thing. Whatever it is, it's not good. Obviously. Lawson slinks out of the room downstairs into an empty office and then disrobes and activates his wristwatch, which, what the fuck? So yeah, this is Captain Mahr Vehl of the Ultimate Universe. And he's been given cyber surgery that allows him to horribly change forms from Kree to human, like a fucked up Ben 10. Captain Mahr Vehl suits up with his Kree tech battlesuit and then engages in his cloaking device and heads out through the destruction. Mahr Vehl heads out and comes face to face with a Kree kill form. They speak to each other in Kree as he attempts to sway the weird bio-machine thing from its directive, but it refuses due to a direct order by Ship Thane Yanrug to not allow humans to escape the planet and comply with the destruction of the ACES. Mahr Vehl attacks the robot, but it blasts him away. He opens fire on it once again and disrupts its cloaking shields, and then it just opens fire on him and displaces gravity in the surrounding area. Mahr Vehl rockets inside the ACES to dismantle the nuclear heart of the ship before the kill form gets there, and then it unleashes a sonic blast that detonates the entire craft. Luckily, Mahr Vehl was able to escape with the nuclear reactor before the ship explodes and gets it out of harm's way. He rockets through the air, lands inside of a Humvee, sets it down, and tells the driver to drive it safely to Captain Danvers at the main building. Then he flies back to face off against the kill form. Mahr Vehl fights it until he drives his hand into its inner workings and detonates the hybrid mechanical creature and rockets back against the ground and passes out as SHIELD soldiers surround him. Hours later, he wakes up to find an explosive collar wrapped around his neck and Carol Danvers holding the remote because they couldn't take his armor off. Mahr Vehl calmly explains that the trigger for his suit is on his wrist device and then he's going to deactivate it. So he does. And Carol is shocked to see Dr. Lawson sitting before her. She refuses to believe it, even threatening to hand him over to SHIELD's Department of Knowledge, which is their clinical and extensive interrogation operation. And Lawson finally tells her that no, it is true. His name is Gehenerisis Halason Mahr Vehl, captain of the Kree Void Navy. Then Nick Fury rocks up, takes a seat, and asks how a member of the Kree tribe got so far off the reservation. Mahr Vehl sighs and explains that the Kree race, one of 12 that are currently active on Earth, although the Kree tend to stay off-world because they have a strict order to merely observe humans, and if they do go to the planet, to operate undercover. Mahr Vehl makes a joke, and Fury laughs, then clocks him in the jaw and demands to know why he's here. Mahr Vehl calls him an idiot because he's defecting to help them, because he was ordered to destroy any and all technologies that allow humans to leave Earth, because the Kree have declared that the human race must die at the hands of Galactus. Fury whips out his handgun and demands to know how Lawson knows that name. And he explains that it's a Kree word to describe the cosmic destructor, and that the Kree shuttle he came aboard has come to Earth to ensure that Galactus kills their world. Fury promotes Carol on the spot to his personal aide, orders her to get Dr. Storm, Reed Richards, Sue Storm, and Tony Stark together immediately because they are taking a trip back to the Triskelion. At the Baxter Building, Reed's working on an equation to determine how many races of extraterrestrial species they can expect to come in contact with. That's convenient. He believes it's paradoxical and that there are too many aliens according to the equation. Sue, meanwhile, gets all lovey-dovey, and Reed then grabs her and sits her down, and she partly jokes, partly theorizes that maybe something destroys them before they reach the level of making contact with others. Then the phone rings, and Sue lifts it with her force field. It's her father, telling them that they need to get to the Triskelion immediately and meet him there. Johnny and Ben then join the couple as they head to a version of the Fantastic Car, Mark II, I guess. It's a VTOL jet that Reed designed to fit the four, and they head off across the city to the Triskelion, accompanied by Thor and Iron Man as their official escorts. FF arrive at the Triskelion with the two Ultimates, and Sue gets shy because she has a crush on Tony Stark. Reed is, however, fascinated by the structure up close and all the technology they've used to build it, while Thor notes that he hopes to one day fight alongside these two warriors, Johnny and Ben. Johnny fist bumps Ben and says that this is the moment that they finally become superheroes. Everyone's gonna know their name. Later in a meeting, the FF, Iron Man, Thor, and Mahr Vehl, along with Fury and Danvers, go over the situation to get the FF caught up. Fury reveals to all of them what S.H.I.E.L.D. discovered several months ago in Russia, the Vision, and explains that it was meant to warn the world of Galactus to prepare them. But it crash-landed and was stripped for parts for 100 years instead. He notes that Sam Wilson is currently working with the Vision, but according to what he's learned, they only have weeks left before Galactus arrives. And it also seemingly destroyed every technological civilization within 150 light years. Reed realizes that Sue was right, and that the galaxy should be full of life, but the reason they don't hear much from him is because it's extinguished. Mahr Vehl interrupts and explains that there's only one person he knows that has actual information on Galactus, because the Kree Supreme Intelligence keeps it locked away, and it's the leader of the Kree observation vessel, Jan Rug. He explains that Jan Rug was never the same after being briefed on Galactus, and after what he learned, he became obsessed with witnessing the extinction of Earth. And that's why the Kree have been tasked with observing Earth and destroying any and all ships or shuttles or anything that could possibly take them long range away from Earth. Mahr Vehl explains that he actually likes it here. He likes humans, the culture, all of it. And that's why he got himself on the ACES project in hopes of helping humanity escape. He then proposes a plan in which they need to relaunch the ACES to force the Kree in orbit to take action, which will then allow them to sneak aboard the ship and gather the information Jan Rug has on Galactus. Tony and Reed are into it. Johnny asks what exactly they're going to do. Fury tells him that they're superheroes now. He then assigns Johnny and Ben with Thor and Black Widow on the ground, while Reed, Sue, Tony, and Hawkeye head to space. A week later, Iron Man, Reed, and Mahr Vehl complete the work needed on the ship, which I guess is either it didn't get destroyed or seemingly is ACES 02, since they said it can be mass-produced. I guess it's just another one. They make some finishing touches, and Tony and Reed are curious to see what exactly Mahr Vehl looks like. Tony asks if he could bring his Kree systems online and, test their alterations of the ACES ship. And he does, and they are into it. The next day, the ACES is rolled out of the hangar with the FF, Mahr Vehl, Iron Man, and Hawkeye on board. The Kree send their kill forms down to Earth to stop the takeoff, and the stealth systems are put to the test. And the Kree kill forms just kind of amble around as Tony activates takeoff. The kill forms instead redirect their attention to the complex. And Nick Fury leads a legion of S.H.I.E.L.D. troops, the Ultimates, and half of the FF into battle. The ACES then soars through the vacuum of space as they come across the massive Kree shuttle. The ship is hidden from the Kree sensors and soars into the mouth of it and deep within the inner workings until they find a self-landing pad. The team readies themselves to embark into the ship, and Hawkeye orders Reed and Sue to stay behind them at all times, but Sue reassures him that they have powers. Hawkeye takes point with Mahr Vehl as they make their way through the ship, and he complains that he feels like he has super seasickness being up here in space. Then the horrible-looking ultimate Kree waltzes down the hall, and within a second, Hawkeye kills every single one of them, noting that they at least die easily. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Theng is having a hell of a time, finally letting loose after being cooped up in the Baxter building for a few years and only getting to punch training dummies. A Kree weapon blasts a beam of energy towards Thor as he lands, and the Thing dives to cover him. Thor leaps out over the Thing, strikes Mjolnir to the ground, exploding the kill forms. And back in orbit, Space Team fight through Kree troops. They defeat him, and a voice echoes through the ship, the voice of Jan Rig. He notes that he can see them at all moments, and that they will die. Then he overrides Mahr Vehl's surgical disguise system and forces him to transform back into his true Kree form. Mahr Vehl falls to the ground in painful exhaustion as Sue and Reed pick him up and carry him on. The team find the bridge of the ship, I suppose, and Mahr Vehl speaks to them through his suit since his vocal cords are unable to speak English, and notes that Jan Rig has triggered his personal escape pod, meaning that the ship's self-destruct sequence is also activated. Jan Rig speaks to them in his pod and laughs at the idea of ever letting humans gain access to the Kree vessel. Then he ridicules Mahr Vehl and reveals that he was originally chosen to be the leader of the mission, but now Jan Rig will return to their home world and be a hero, while Mahr Vehl and his family will go down in infamy as traitors to the species. Mahr Vehl gives Stark a device to begin downloading the entire Galactus database into his systems, and tells Jan Rig that Hala was a Kree that taught that all innocent life was worth saving. Then Sue uses her power to jam the lock on Rig's escape pod, and Hawkeye dismantles it with his arrows. Jan Rig flips his shit and screams that he will at least die quickly, unlike all of humanity, which will suffer a cruel, tormenting end. And he proclaims that Galactus is purity of existence, the anti-god. He proclaims that the Kree are eternal because only the Kree have learned from each of Galactus' extinction events. And Sue thanks him for the information, and as Tony finishes the download, the Kree ship begins to explode. She forms a protective bubble around the team, and they escape back to the Aces. Later, the Earth team piles up the Kree kill form bodies that were actually killed, and Fury orders S.H.I.E.L.D. to collect the ones that were just beaten to a pulp for examination. Widow asks what he's going to do about Mahr Vehl, and Fury notes that Danvers is going to be his personal guard, and that he's sending Mahr Vehl to attend to the vision research at the Triskelion with Sam Wilson. And as he watches the Aces return, he feels like he's close to solving the puzzle, now that he has both the vision and the Kree database. The end. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. I don't really have much to say. It really is just the middle point of the Galactus storyline. It's well done, you know, I said that last time, all three of them are well done. It's quite the romp, actually. It introduces some more new characters into the Ultimate Marvel Universe, Carol Danvers in particular. She goes on to be quite the character as time progresses, because eventually she's going to take over S.H.I.E.L.D. after Nick Fury gets exiled in Ultimate Power, and she never becomes a superhero. That's like the position she stays in. She also has some stuff to do later with Ultimate Spider-Man whenever S.H.I.E.L.D. really shows up post-Ultimate Power. So it's cool to see her there. It's a very different iteration of Carol Danvers, and I really do like the Ultimate Carol. Neat character. It's interesting. And we also get Ultimate Mahr Vehl, who's cool. He's witty and sassy and quippy, is quite different from his more normally stoic version that we're used to. And I enjoy the twist with the Kree, if you can call it a twist. The redesign of the Kree, it's something new. It's something different for the Ultimate Universe that still keeps in line with like the traditional idea of the Kree. Very controlling and extreme, you know? But it doesn't go too far in that aspect. And I have personally always enjoyed the idea of Ultimate Galactus. There, I said it. Especially with this buildup of whatever it is. Because we don't know at this point. It's very well done, and the mystery is just so cool and unnerving, especially the stuff that we learn in this. Like, this adds way more than the first book did, Ultimate Nightmare. That's the establishing point. That sets everything up. But most of it's just just S.H.I.E.L.D. and the X-Men traveling through a horrible underground complex with monsters. It's like a horror video game until they get right to the very end and learn about galactus. This one, however, it's full throttle. We're getting information. We're learning stuff. We're seeing that the Kree are kind of part of it as well. It's all cool. Very neat. And I hope that the build-up is worth it. Because again, don't forget, this event occurred over 2 years. And also, based on the FF's costumes, this is before Ultimate Fantastic Four Volume 3, where they meet Annihilus and they go to the end zone and then come back, and Annihilus follows him, tries to invade Earth, and they defeat him in the middle of Las Vegas, thus outing themselves to the public, and the government can no longer keep them a secret anymore. And then after that, from that point on, they become the superheroes that we all know and love, right? Everybody loves the Ultimate Fantastic Four. So that's an interesting thing to point out, is that this is happening sometime seemingly, after Volume 1 and Volume 2, which I think happened pretty close back-to-back, and Volume 3. So it's at a unique spot in the timeline, because once again, it took 2 years for this to come out, and we'll see the ramifications of that in the next video. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. As always, check out my Patreon, patreon.com/Smokey'sVideos, where you can find early access to videos, all of my comics available on there in high resolution with my own commentary added on, and movie commentaries, and more. Check out my Etsy shop, BlakeTWild.etsy.com, where I have my physical copies of all my comics available for purchase. Every purchase comes with a free head sketch of any character of your choosing. And check out my podcast, the Comic Shtick Podcast, where comics are my shtick. And I Need Some Disney podcast, where myself and my Disney-obsessed wife sit down to discuss the rides, parks, themes, characters, movies, everything Disney each week. And I will see you next time for more Ultimate Galactus. Bye!